Close your eyes and take a deep, gentle breath. Let the rhythm of your breathing slow, like a river winding through a quiet valley. Imagine, just for a moment, a world untouched by modern life, a world of snow and wind, of silence so deep it almost hums beneath your skin. A world where the stars hang so brightly in the sky that they seem close enough to touch. This is the world of the last ice age. It stretches out before you, an endless expanse of frost and stone, forests heavy with snow, rivers frozen like silver ribbons, mountains rise, jagged and ancient. Their peaks glinting with ice that has not melted for thousands of years. The air is crisp, so cold that every inhale feels sharp and new, yet strangely invigorating. Imagine the hush of this place, broken only by the distant call of a wolf, or the faint crack of ice under the weight of wind. In this world, humans were far fewer than today. They moved like shadows across frozen plains, surviving not just the cold but the constant challenge of the environment itself. Picture a small group huddled near fire, their breaths curling into the frosty night. Perhaps a child stirs beside the warmth, blinking at the flickering light, watching sparks rise and vanish into the dark. There is no hurry here, only the slow rhythm of existence, a careful observation of the land, the animals, and the seasons. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to walk across a frozen river, the ice smooth under your boots, the sky above so vast it feels endless, or to follow the tracks of a mammoth herd, silent and cautious, your own heartbeat echoing in your ears? Early humans lived this reality every day, not as an adventure, but as survival. Each step was deliberate, each choice significant. The wind might bite, the snow might fall without warning, yet they carried on slowly, thoughtfully, like whispers across the tundra. And yet, there's a mystery here. How did they endure such extreme conditions? How did humans, so delicate in comparison to the fierce animals round them, manage to find food, warmth, and safety? What small, almost invisible acts of ingenuity allowed them to survive the relentless cold? These are the questions that have fascinated scientists, archaeologists, and storytellers alike for centuries. But tonight, we do not need to solve the mystery immediately. Tonight, we simply imagine, we wander alongside them, feeling the world as they might have felt it. Imagine a hunter stepping carefully over a ridge, snow crunching beneath his boots. His breath forms clouds that hang and shimmer in the light of the aurora, green and violet ribbons that dance across the sky. Perhaps he pauses, listening. A distant rumble, maybe a herd moving through the valley below, or the groan of shifting ice. He adjusts the furs round his shoulders, feeling their weight and warmth, and takes another step. Every movement is purposeful, yet measured. The world is quiet, vast, and full of possibility, and there, beside him, a fire flickers in a small, hollowed-out shelter of branches and fuzz. A woman tends to it carefully, coaxing warmth from a few stubborn embers. She hums softly, a tune passed down in her family, comforting and familiar. A child leans against her side, small hands tucked beneath layers of hide, eyes wide with wonder at the dancing flames. In this moment, life is both fragile and enduring. A delicate balance of caution, curiosity, and hope. The landscapes themselves hold stories. If you listen closely, the ice sheets stretching far beyond the horizon tell of time. Slow and unstoppable, rivers of meltwater carve new paths each spring, whispering tales of change and persistence. Forests, frozen yet alive beneath their blanket of snow, shelter animals and humans alike. Imagine the sensation of reaching out to touch the rough bark of a conifer, feeling the cold bite into your gloves, smelling the resin and frost mingling in the crisp air. Have you ever noticed how silence can feel alive? In the Ice Age, silence was a companion, as constant as the cold. It held the sounds of distant creatures, a mammoth trampling the snow, a fox darting along the edge of the trees, a raven calling somewhere high above. Humans learned to read this silence, to understand the world through what they could hear and feel, as much as through what they could see. Each sound, each movement was a clue, a guide to life in a world that demanded attentiveness and patience. And yet, amid the vast, frozen wilderness, there were moments of beauty, moments that transcended survival. The night sky was a cathedral, every star a silent witness to human perseverance. Snowflakes drifted slowly, unique and intricate, landing softly on furs and froze alike. Fires offered more than warmth, they offered community, light, and stories. Perhaps someone would carve small figures from bone, or etch marks into stone, leaving traces of thought and creativity that would endure long after their own lives had passed. What would it feel like to experience these small wonders, knowing the cold outside is constant, yet momentarily forgotten in the glow of the fire? Could you imagine the quiet satisfaction of tracking a successful hunt? Or the calm wonder of seeing a newborn calf take its first uncertain steps in a frozen meadow? These were the small triumphs, the ephemeral victories that marked life in the Ice Age. They remind us, in our modern comfort, of the resilience woven into the very fabric of humanity. As we begin our journey into this ancient world, consider the perspective of time itself. The Ice Age spans thousands of years, an epoch that stretched across generations and landscapes. Entire mountains rose and fell in the same span as a human life. Glaciers advanced and receded as silently as a heartbeat, and yet, within this immense timeline, humans carved their existence small. Careful and extraordinarily persistent, their story is one of endurance, curiosity, and quiet ingenuity. Tonight, we will wander alongside them. We will imagine walking through snow-laden forests, resting beside fires, watching roars ripple across the sky. We will sense the cold, the wind, the hush of untouched landscapes. And we will wonder, how did humans endure? What small acts of courage and creativity kept them alive? And, perhaps most gently of all, what can their world teach us about patience, observation, and resilience in our own lives? So, let your eyes close fully now, if they have not already. Let your body sink into comfort. Let your mind drift into the slow cadence of snowflakes falling, rivers freezing and fires flickering. Together, we will explore a world long gone, yet still alive in our imagination, a world of survival, mystery, and quiet wonder, a world where every breath, every step, every heartbeat matters. And so, the story begins. The first light of morning stretches across the frozen landscape, soft and pale, brushing against the jagged edges of ice and the delicate tips of frost-covered branches. Imagine standing on a ridge, watching the sun slowly rise, a golden glow spilling across snowfields that seem to extend forever. The air is crisp, biting at exposed skin, yet it carries a freshness that feels alive and invigorating. Every inhale is a reminder of life in a world that is vast, quiet, and demanding. In this frozen realm, humans moved with a careful rhythm. Imagine a small family of parents, a few children, perhaps a few trusted companions preparing for the day. The mother shakes out blankets of animal fur, brushing off snow that had settled overnight. She hums softly, a tune that carries comfort and familiarity. Weaving through the quiet, the father adjusts his spear, checking the sharpened edge. A child peeks from beneath a hood, wide-eyed, watching the delicate shimmer of frost on the branches. Every movement is deliberate, a dance of survival performed in harmony with the land. Have you ever wondered what it might feel like to follow the footsteps of another human across ice-crusted ground, listening to the soft crunch beneath your boots? These early humans learned to read the land in ways we rarely imagine today. They noticed subtle shifts in the wind, the smell of distant animals, The faint traces left in snow that revealed where herds had passed. Every detail mattered. Every observation a thread in the tapestry of survival. They traveled lightly, carrying what they needed most, furs to shield them from the cold, sharpened stones to fashion tools, and perhaps a few cherished objects of personal significance. A small carving, a stone pendant, a carefully tended ember for a fire. These objects were more than practical, they were symbols of ingenuity, markers of identity, threads connecting them to each other and to the long line of humans who had come before. Imagine holding such a simple object, feeling its smoothness, its weight, and sensing the invisible stories embedded in it. The landscapes they traversed were both harsh and breathtaking, forests of pine and fir, heavy with snow, stretched along river valleys. Glaciers crept slowly across the land. Enormous and indifferent, carving deep valleys and shaping the horizon. Rivers that had once flowed freely were now frozen, turning into smooth highways of ice. The animals of this time adapted just as carefully as humans did. Mammoths trudged across tundras, their breath misting in the cold. Reindeer moved in steady herds. Wolves roamed in cautious packs. Imagine witnessing a herd crossing a frozen plain, feeling both awe and quiet tension, knowing each life must balance on the razor edge of survival. And then there is fire, a constant companion and ally. The first flicker of flame in the morning light is more than warmth. It is life, comfort, and ritual all at once. Imagine gathering round it, the heat radiating gently. Fingers brushing against warm furs, smoke rises in thin spirals, curling into the cold air and dispersing, carrying with it the scent of pine and cooked meat. Perhaps a child sits cross-legged, watching sparks leap and vanish, eyes reflecting the dancing light. The fire hums a quiet song, a reminder that even in the harshest cold, life persists. But survival was not merely about warmth or food, it was about observation, learning, and adaptation. Imagine a young hunter noticing the faint prints of a predator etched in snow, tracing them carefully without making a sound, or a gatherer discovering a cluster of roots hidden beneath a layer of frost, remembering the taste, texture, and how to prepare them safely. Each act, no matter how small, was a victory in a world that demanded attention and patience. The passing seasons brought both challenges and rhythm. Winter's grip was long and relentless, while the short summers offered bursts of abundance. Early humans learned to plan, storing food and clothing, tracking migrations, and timing movements with precision. Imagine the quiet anticipation in the air as a family waits for the return of a herd, hearts aligned with the land's ancient cycles. Every step, every moment, carried meaning. Curiosity, too, played a role. Humans watched, experimented, and imagined. They noticed patterns, the way snow melted in the sunlight, the way river ice cracked, the habits of birds and animals. They imagined what might lie beyond distant ridges, beyond the horizons of familiar forests. Could there be other groups of humans, other herds to follow, other lands to explore? These questions, simple and profound, guided not just survival but the spark of human creativity, even in moments of extreme cold or scarcity. There was room for wonder. Imagine looking up at a sky streaked with the first hints of dawn, seeing roars shimmer faintly on the horizon. Imagine hearing the distant howl of a wolf pack, sharp and haunting, yet strangely beautiful. Imagine the quiet satisfaction of a fire well tended, his spear sharpened, a meal prepared. These small triumphs, these flickers of mastery and understanding, sustained humans just as much as the furs on their backs or the food in their bellies. And so, life in the Ice Age was a delicate balance between warmth and cold, between observation and action, between fear and curiosity. Humans endured not simply by strength, but by attentiveness, ingenuity, and imagination. They watched, listened, adapted, and persisted. Every frozen dawn and quiet night carried lessons in patience, in noticing, in moving carefully through a world that was both beautiful and perilous. As we walk alongside them, you might feel a quiet connection, a sense of shared humanity that stretches across millennia. Perhaps you sense the same or vast landscapes, the same thrill of discovery, the same careful attention to small details. Perhaps you imagine, just for a moment, what it would feel like to be fully present in that ancient, frozen world, moving deliberately, observing intently, and finding both challenge and beauty in every step. The Last Ice Age is not merely a story of hardship. It is a story of adaptation, of subtle triumphs, of humans discovering their place in a vast and mysterious world. It is a story that asks gentle questions. How do we endure? How do we notice what matters most? How do small acts of care, observation, and imagination shape not only survival, but the meaning of life itself? Tonight, as you breathe slowly and settle into comfort, imagine the whisper of snow underfoot, the warmth of fire against cold skin, the flicker of distant roars across the twilight sky. Imagine the soft murmur of a small family, sharing stories and observing the land, noticing the rhythm of life in a world dominated by ice and sky, and so. The journey continues through frozen forests, across vast plains, and into the quiet, enduring presence of early humans who, against all odds, learned to survive. Let your mind drift gently along these paths, your imagination tracing footsteps in the snow. Feel the cold air mingle with warmth, the hush of silence tempered by flickering firelight. And as you do, notice the subtle rhythm of life in the Ice Age, patient, attentive, and quietly persistent. The story is just beginning, and together we will wander through a world both harsh and breathtaking, discovering the mysteries of survival, resilience, and the quiet wonders of humanity long ago. As the morning light spreads across the frozen land, imagine pausing on a ridge, looking out over a world that stretches endlessly, snow blankets valleys and hills, sparkling faintly in the pale glow of the rising sun. The silence is profound, yet full of subtle life, the soft murmur of a distant stream, the careful steps of a small herd of deer moving through a frost-dusted forest, the occasional cry of a bird braving the cold. Each sound, each movement, carries meaning in a world where survival is intimately tied to awareness. Imagine a lone human standing here, bundled in layers of fuzz, breath rising in clouds, eyes scanning the horizon. Perhaps it is a hunter, tracking the faint footprints of a mammoth herd. Or a gatherer, seeking roots beneath the snow. Every action is deliberate, every decision matters, and yet, within this careful attention, there is also wonder, the vastness of the landscape, the brilliance of the sky, the quiet resilience of life round them. These are moments that inspire reflection even amid hardship. Have you ever wondered what it might feel like to stand at the edge of a glacier, the ice vast and unbroken, shimmering in pale light, feeling both awe and smallness, or to follow the trail of a distant predator, mindful of every crack of ice underfoot, every whisper of the wind? Early humans lived these experiences daily, moving with attentiveness and reverence for the world round them. Their lives were an intricate balance between caution and curiosity, fear and fascination. In the quiet moments, beside a fire or beneath the shelter of a snow-laden tree, humans paused to notice the small wonders of their world. Imagine the delicate beauty of frost patterns forming overnight, the way sunlight glints on frozen branches, the way the wind carves subtle waves in snowdrifts. Perhaps a child reaches out to touch these patterns, eyes wide with amazement. Perhaps a parent or elder watches, sharing a story or a soft hum, turning observation into ritual and memory. These simple acts, watching, touching, learning are threads in the tapestry of human endurance. Even in a landscape defined by cold and scarcity, moments of warmth and comfort emerge. Picture a small fire crackling gently in a hollow of snow, smoke rising and curling toward the pale sky. Round it, a family huddles together, sharing both body heat and stories. They trade observations, recount past hunts, or recall distant lands where food was plentiful and the sun warmer. Every word, every gesture, carries significance. These moments are quiet victories. Small triumphs that sustain life and spirit in a harsh and unpredictable world. The Ice Age was a time of extremes, blinding snowstorms, icy winds that cut through furs, long months of limited daylight, and sudden, fleeting summers, yet within these extremes. Humans found rhythm. They followed animal migrations, observed seasonal changes, and tracked the movements of rivers and glaciers. They learned to carry the world in their senses, the cold in their bones, the sharp scent of pine resin, the crunch of frozen leaves beneath their feet. Every sense became a tool, every observation a key to survival, and the night brought its own quiet magic. Picture a sky so vast and clear that every star seems luminous enough to touch. Perhaps the northern lights shimmer overhead, green and violet ribbons stretching across the darkness. Mirrored faintly in the icy river below, humans would gaze upward, silently marveling at the constellations. Perhaps imagining stories in the patterns of stars. The night was both a time of vigilance and wonder, a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, beauty and mystery endure. Yet, even as wonder inspired them, humans never stopped questioning, never stopped imagining. How could they navigate the vast frozen plain safely? How could they track elusive prey or discover edible roots beneath ice-crusted soil? What dangers might lie over the next ridge, or in the deep shadow of the forest? Every day presented challenges, but also the opportunity for discovery and ingenuity. Perhaps it was curiosity that sharpened their minds as much as the spear sharpened for the hunt, and resilience that strengthened their bodies as much as first protected them from cold. Imagine tracing a day in the life of an Ice Age human. The careful observation of tracks in the snow, the cautious crossing of a frozen river. The quiet satisfaction of a fire well tended at the end of the day. Every gesture is both practical and intimate, an expression of presence in a world that demands attention, and yet there is also imagination, a child carving a small figure from bone, an elder etching marks into stone, a family telling stories of distant hunts or strange lands. In these small acts, creativity, memory, and hope intertwine. So, as we prepare to step further into this frozen epoch, pause for a moment and breathe deeply. Let your imagination walk alongside these early humans. Moving with them through snow-laden forests and across icy plains, feel the cold on your face, the warmth of fire in your hands, the quiet anticipation in every careful step. Let curiosity guide you gently as we begin to explore the broader landscapes, climates, and challenges that shape human survival. The last Ice Age was not merely a backdrop for hardship. It was a stage upon which the story of human resilience unfolded. It was a world that demanded patience, observation, and ingenuity, yet it offered moments of profound beauty and quiet triumph. In the following chapters, we will wander deeper into this time, exploring its vast frozen valleys, the creatures that shared the land, and the remarkable ways humans adapted, survived, and even thrived. And so, we leave the first light of morning behind, stepping carefully into the broader, intricate world of the Ice Age. Let your mind follow the footsteps in the snow, your imagination stretching across frozen plains and quiet forests. Notice the subtle rhythm of life, the hush of wind through branches, the crackle of ice underfoot, the faint call of distant animals. Sense the patient, enduring presence of early humans, navigating a world that is both harsh and breathtaking, guided by curiosity, awareness, and quiet ingenuity, and with that gentle thought. We are ready to begin our journey into the deeper context of this ancient time, the climate. Landscapes and life that shape human survival in ways both extraordinary and subtle. Now, imagine the world stretching far beyond what the human eye can see, a land sculpted by ice and time, vast and quiet, both beautiful and relentless. Mountains rise like frozen guardians, their jagged peaks capped with endless snow. Shimmering under a pale winter sun, valleys lie beneath them, blanketed in frost. And rivers that once flowed freely now sleep beneath thick sheets of ice. The air is sharp and clean, tinged with the scent of pine resin and snow, carrying a crispness that awakens the senses even as it chills the skin. In this world, humans were but small figures moving across enormous, frozen landscapes. They walked through forests that seemed endless, where every tree stood coated in frost and every branch held a delicate layer of snow. The silence was profound, broken only by subtle, almost imperceptible sounds: the snap of a twig underfoot, the distant rumble of shifting ice, the cautious footfalls of deer moving through the underbrush. Imagine the sensation of stepping carefully through this terrain, feeling the crunch of snow under your boots, the weight of fur against your shoulders, the cold pressing gently into your cheeks. The climate of the last ice age was harsh and ever-changing. Temperatures plunged far below what most of us experience today, and winters stretched long and deep, blanketing the land in snow and ice. Glaciers, vast rivers of slow-moving ice, crept down from highlands and mountains, reshaping the world in silent, deliberate motion. Entire lakes and rivers froze solid, creating new pathways, while other areas remained unpredictable, where ice could crack and shift without warning. For humans living in this time, each day was an exercise in attentiveness, observation, and subtle adaptation. Have you ever considered how it must have felt to see a glacier moving, slowly but inexorably, reshaping the earth beneath your feet? Perhaps a hunter stands at the edge of a frozen valley, watching the sunlight glint off ice that seems to stretch endlessly. The movement is imperceptibly slow, yet undeniably powerful, a reminder of the forces shaping the world long before humans could control them. Every sight, every sound, every detail was a lesson, a guide to living within the rhythms of a land dominated by cold and time. Life thrived even in this icy world, but it thrived differently. Trees that survived the frost formed dense, coniferous forests, their dark green needles dusted with white. Animals moved cautiously through these spaces, reindeer following seasonal paths, mammoths trudging across open plains, wolves hunting in small, coordinated packs. Even the smallest creatures had a place. Snowshoe hares burrowed beneath fallen branches, birds flitted carefully between frost-laden pines. Every ecosystem was interconnected, each species adjusting to the cold and scarcity in remarkable ways. Humans learned to read these subtle signs, to understand where prey might gather, where water could be found, or where shelter awaited in the snow-laden forests. Imagine a small group pausing beside a frozen stream, the sunlight reflecting off its crystalline surface. They watch footprints in the snow, faint traces left by a passing deer or wolf. Perhaps a child bends down to touch a track, fascinated by the delicate impression, while an elder observes quietly, teaching the young one how to interpret these signs. Every observation carried survival knowledge: where to hunt, where to avoid danger, how to move quietly and efficiently through a world that could change without warning. Glaciers shaped not just the land, but also the climate as ice sheets advanced. They reflected sunlight, cooling surrounding areas, while as they retreated, they left behind lakes, moraines, and fertile soil. Winds swept across frozen plains, sometimes gentle and whispering, other times sharp enough to bite through layers of fuzz. Imagine feeling these winds on your face. The subtle sting balanced by the warmth of carefully tended clothing in a nearby fire. These environmental forces shaped human behavior and creativity, guiding migrations, influencing diets, and even inspiring early forms of art and ritual. The Ice Age climate was not a uniform chill, it had rhythm and fluctuation, brief summers allowed. For growth and abundance, plants emerged from frozen soil, rivers thawed enough to provide fish, and animals moved freely in search of grazing lands. Early humans learned to follow these cycles, storing food, creating shelters, and planning movements with a careful understanding of seasonal patterns. Imagine the satisfaction of finding edible roots after months of snow, or the relief of a partially thawed river providing fresh water. Each moment acquired triumph against a demanding environment. Yet it was not only survival that defined human life. Observation, curiosity, and ingenuity played equally crucial roles. Humans watched how animals adapted, noticing which prey were more vulnerable in certain conditions, how herds moved, or how predators hunted. They experimented with tools, refining techniques for cutting, scraping, and constructing shelters. Every discovery, every small improvement, carried the potential to tip the balance between scarcity and sustenance, danger and safety. Perhaps a young hunter discovers that a sharpened stone allows meat to be cut more efficiently, or a gatherer learns to recognize subtle differences in roots and berries. These incremental discoveries shaped human survival in profound ways. And still, wonder remained. The landscapes themselves inspired imagination. Night skies, unobscured by city lights, revealed stars so countless and bright that humans could trace stories in their patterns. Snow and ice created ephemeral art, the intricate crystals of frost, the gentle curves of drifts shaped by wind, the shimmer of frozen lakes under the sun. Even in the harshest cold, beauty whispered, offering quiet moments of reflection and connection. Imagine pausing beside such a lake, watching sunlight dance across its surface, and feeling a soft sense of awe that has endured across millennia. In this vast, frozen world, humans were observers, learners, and adapters. They paid attention to the smallest details and the largest patterns alike. The cracks in the ice, the tracks of animals, the timing of seasons, the movements of glaciers, every step, every breath. Every glance mattered, and through this careful observation, humans began to shape not only their own survival, but also their understanding of the world around them. As we wander further into this story, notice the quiet rhythm of this ancient landscape. Feel the stillness of snow-covered forests, the slow sweep of ice across valleys, the soft murmur of rivers beneath frozen layers. Imagine moving carefully alongside early humans, learning their lessons in patience, observation, and adaptation. Sense the vastness of the world, the subtle beauty of the environment, and the quiet ingenuity of those who navigated it. We are only beginning to understand the extraordinary context in which humans survived the last Ice Age, and as our journey continues, we will explore more deeply the creatures they shared the land with, the innovations that allowed them to endure, and the mysteries that still whisper through ice and stone as we continue our journey through the frozen landscapes of the last Ice Age. Imagine following a small group of humans as they navigate the world around them. Each day was shaped not only by the climate, but by the choices they made to survive and thrive. Shelters were more than just protection from cold, they were carefully chosen havens, crafted with an understanding of the land, the wind, and the warmth of the sun. Picture a cluster of huts nestled in the shadow of a cliff, snow drifting gently round their entrances. Smoke rises from carefully maintained fires, carrying a faint, comforting scent of burning pine and dried animal fat. Inside, furs line the floors and walls, insulating against the relentless cold. Perhaps a mother prepares food, soft and slow in her movements, while father sharpens tools for hunting. Children play nearby, tossing small stones or tracing patterns in the frost. Their laughter faint and muffled by the thick walls of snow and hides. Every detail of this settlement reflects attentiveness, creativity, and an intricate balance of survival and home. Humans of this time were deeply connected to the land, moving across it with careful knowledge of its rhythms. Migration was a necessity. Driven by both the seasons and the movements of the animals they depended on. Imagine a family traveling along a frozen riverbed, footprints leaving temporary traces in the snow. Perhaps they follow the tracks of reindeer herds, noting subtle signs that indicate direction, size, and behavior. Along the way, they paused to examine plant life, searching for edible roots or berries beneath snow-laden branches. Every observation informs the next step. Every choice reflects the quiet ingenuity of adaptation, even within these daily routines. Humans displayed remarkable creativity. Tools were fashioned from stone, bone, and wood, each carefully shaped for specific purposes: cutting, scraping, digging, or hunting. Imagine watching someone carefully strike flint, sparks flying. Shaping a sharp edge with patient precision, the process is slow and deliberate, almost meditative in its rhythm. These tools, small and humble as they may seem, held immense power, the power to transform survival into something sustainable and even predictable. Settlements themselves were often temporary, responding to the availability of food, water, and shelter. Imagine a small group packing their belongings in the morning light, carefully arranging furs, tools, and provisions. The air is cold, but movements are efficient and familiar, each person performing tasks honed through experience. They leave no unnecessary trace, understanding that the land must continue to support life long after they have moved on. And yet, within these temporary homes, there is warmth, laughter, and even a sense of continuity, a shared rhythm of life that stretches across generations. The seasonal cycles dictated much of life. Winters were long and harsh, demanding careful planning and endurance. Summers, though brief, brought abundance. Plants emerged from frozen soil. Rivers flowed freely, and animals grazed in open fields. Humans followed these cycles with attentiveness, storing food and preparing for scarcity. Imagine a group harvesting roots and berries during a short summer, carefully drying or caching them for months ahead. Perhaps a hunter returns with a successful kill, and the group works together to preserve the meat. Every action is purposeful. Every effort acquired assertion of life against the cold. Even in the face of these challenges, humans found ways to create comfort and community. Imagine a family sitting round a fire as night falls, the flames casting dancing shadows on the snow-dusted walls. They share stories, teach skills, or simply enjoy the warmth. Perhaps someone hums a soft tune, the sound blending with the crackle of the fire and the faint whistle of wind outside. These moments, small and intimate, are as vital to survival as food or shelter. They nourish the mind and spirit, weaving resilience into the fabric of daily life. Humans also observed and learned from the animals around them, the movements, habits, and behaviors of prey and predators offered subtle lessons. Imagine watching a wolf pack from a safe distance, noting how it coordinates movement and hunts strategically. Perhaps the tracks of a mammoth herd reveal seasonal patterns, teaching when and where to follow. These observations required patience, attentiveness, and imagination skills as critical as physical strength through careful study. Humans adapted their hunting and gathering practices, turning the rhythms of the natural world into guides for survival. The challenges of the Ice Age were not just physical, they were also mental and emotional. Isolation, cold, and scarcity demanded patience and focus. Imagine a child standing quietly in a frozen meadow, watching snowflakes drift from the sky, learning to notice subtle patterns in the environment. Imagine a parent quietly observing the same snowfall, recognizing which areas of the landscape might be safest to cross, or where food may be found. In these small moments, humans developed the attentiveness, foresight, and creativity that allowed their species to endure. And amid all this survival, there was room for imagination. Humans carved, painted, decorated. They created simple art, leaving traces on cave walls, stones, and tools. Imagine a flickering torch illuminating a cave wall, revealing the careful outlines of animals, mammoths, deer, and horses etched with deliberate hands. Perhaps a child watches in awe, learning not only to observe but to wonder. These expressions of imagination and reflection were quiet acts of entrance, reminding humans that even in a harsh world, creativity could flourish. So, as we wander alongside them, notice how every detail matters: the careful packing of a settlement, the patient observation of wildlife, the slow shaping of tools, the quiet warmth of firelight, and the subtle expressions of art and ritual. These small, deliberate acts form the foundation of human survival, a testament to patience, curiosity, and ingenuity as the day draws to a close in this imagined world. Picture a family settling into their temporary home, snow settling softly outside, wind sighing through the trees. The fire flickers warmly, casting comforting shadows. Children rest, adults reflect, and the world outside sleeps under a blanket of frost, even in the vast, harsh expanse of the Ice Age. Life endures through careful observation, creativity, and quiet attention. And now, as your imagination drifts gently through these frozen landscapes, sense the continuity, the rhythm of survival, the attentiveness to the world, and the subtle triumphs that shape human life. These early humans moved with patience, with thought, and with quiet ingenuity, weaving their existence into the vast, frozen tapestry of the world around them. Imagine waking to the soft glow of dawn, the world around cloaked in frost. Snow lies heavy on branches, and the air carries the crisp, subtle scent of ice and pine. A small group of humans rises quietly, careful not to disturb the fragile hush of the morning. They prepare for the day ahead, not a day of leisure, but one shaped by careful observation, skill, and patience. Hunting and foraging are not merely activities, they are the lifelines of existence in a frozen world. Picture a hunter bending close to the snow, inspecting tracks left overnight. The delicate indentations reveal a story, the path of a reindeer herd, perhaps, or the cautious trail of a fox. Every footprint is a clue, every broken branch a hint. Guiding the next steps, imagine tracing these tracks silently, following them with the patience of someone attuned to the rhythms of the land. Each step is deliberate, measured, and filled with both tension and quiet wonder. Hunting in the Ice Age demanded not just strength, but ingenuity. Imagine a hunter crafting a spear from wood and stone, shaping it slowly, carefully balancing weight and point. Perhaps they construct traps or use fire to guide prey, observing the patterns of the herd to anticipate movement. Success was never guaranteed. One misstep could mean hours of effort lost. Yet every attempt taught lessons that were shared across families, generations, and settlements. Foraging was equally vital. Imagine bending low to uncover roots beneath frost-laden soil, noticing subtle differences in texture and color to identify edible plants. Perhaps berries are hidden under snow or seeds tucked into the crook of a branch, requiring patience and keen attention. Even in the depths of winter, small gifts of nourishment could be found if one moved slowly and observed carefully. Each discovery was both sustenance and a reminder of the quiet intelligence woven into survival. And then there are the animals themselves, the majestic. Sometimes fearsome creatures that shared the land. Mammoths trudged across open plains, their enormous forms moving with surprising grace, breath misting in the cold air. Reindeer herds swept across tundra expanses, alert and wary, teaching humans both caution and strategy. Wolves roamed in packs, hunting skillfully and silently. Their movements mirrored occasionally in the careful coordination of human hunters. Every encounter, whether fleeting or prolonged, offered lessons in observation, patience, and respect. Imagine a young hunter lying low in the snow, watching a herd of reindeer in the distance. The muscles of the animals ripple beneath thick fur, their movements precise and synchronized. The hunter observes, learning patterns, noticing which animals lead and which lag. Each detail informs a strategy not just for the hunt, but for understanding the land and its inhabitants. The natural world, in this way, becomes both teacher and partner in survival, and yet life was not only about observing from a distance. Humans sometimes needed to approach, to engage directly, balancing courage with caution. Imagine a spear thrown with precise timing, or a trap carefully constructed to guide prey toward a prepared spot. These acts required calculation, creativity, and confidence. When successful, the reward was sustenance. When unsuccessful, there was still knowledge gained acquired. Incremental advancement in understanding how to navigate the frozen wilderness. Foraging also brought moments of discovery and delight. Imagine uncovering a cluster of frost-hardened roots, tasting the subtle earthiness, marveling at how life persists even under snow. Imagine finding berries nestled beneath branches, their color vibrant against the white world, offering both nutrition and a small, fleeting joy. These quiet moments of abundance were treasured, offering relief and encouragement amid the harsh demands of daily life. Humans of this era also learned to use fire as a tool in hunting and survival. A small controlled burn could flush animals from hiding or signal a change in territory. The careful handling of fire, combined with observation of animals and their patterns, created a subtle interplay between human ingenuity and natural rhythm. Imagine tending embers in the pre-dawn light, watching the smoke rise, understanding both the power and fragility of this precious resource. Interactions with Ice Age fauna were not always predictable. Wolves could be both threat and inspiration. Mammoths could be prey, but also danger in their immense strength. Rivers and frozen lakes could conceal unseen hazards. Humans learned to anticipate, to respect, and to adjust. Imagine a family moving quietly along a riverbank, noting distant silhouettes of deer, or the shadow of a wolf pack moving across snow. Every movement is calculated, every decision deliberate, every breath a measure of awareness. And through all these challenges, humans cultivated curiosity. They watched, they asked questions, they experimented. Why does one herd move differently than another? Which tools make cutting meat easier? How can fire be controlled to guide an animal without harming oneself? These questions, both practical and imaginative, drove subtle innovations that shaped survival and adaptation. Every experiment, every observation, was a small triumph of thought and patience in a demanding world. So, as your imagination moves through these frozen landscapes, picture the rhythm of the day, the soft crunch of snow beneath boots, the careful observation of tracks, the quiet joy of discovering edible plants, the strategic patience required for hunting. Notice how humans and animals coexisted in an intricate balance of respect, observation, and adaptation. Life is fragile yet persistent, demanding attention, creativity, and quiet determination. Evening descends on the snowy plains. Imagine the orange glow of firelight flickering against snow-laden walls. The soft murmur of conversation, the calm settling over a small group. Food has been gathered. Tools prepared, observations noted. Children rest, adults reflect, and outside, the land continues its silent rhythm, creatures moving, wind sweeping, ice shifting slowly, this cycle, repeated day after day, year after year, is the heartbeat of survival in the ice siege and in these gentle, repetitive rhythms. We can glimpse the quiet genius of early humans, their patience, their observation, their resilience, and their creativity. Through careful attention, small experiments, and shared knowledge, they adapted to a world that was beautiful, harsh, and ever-changing. Every moment was both challenge and lesson, hardship and quiet triumph, as the cold night deepens across the frozen plains. Imagine a small group of humans huddled around a flickering fire, its warmth pushing back the sharp edges of the surrounding chill. Beyond the firelight, shadows stretch long and still, blending into the snow-laden forests or the glimmering ice fields. In this vast, silent world, survival was never guaranteed. Yet humans endured against cold, scarcity, and predators alike. How did they manage it? What hidden genius allowed them to thrive in places where the world seemed most unwelcoming? Consider the mystery of early migration. Humans moved across landscapes that were treacherous, icy, and unfamiliar, often covering distances that would challenge even modern travelers. Imagine families traveling along frozen rivers, following the subtle footprints of prey or tracing the line of a retreating glacier. Perhaps a child stumbles upon a small stone carving left by another group days before, a quiet testament that others had moved this way, carefully mapping survival routes without written maps, without compasses, guided by the land itself. Every step, every observation, was part of a story that unfolded slowly over generations. Then there are the feats of ingenuity that seem almost impossible. Imagine a group hunting a mammoth, immense creatures moving in herds, capable of great strength and sudden aggression. Humans did not approach such animals recklessly. Instead, they observed patterns, set traps, coordinated strategies, and worked together with a level of patience and focus that rivals the most disciplined modern teamwork. Perhaps they used narrow passes, creating natural funnels with rocks and trees, guiding the herd toward prepared positions. The effort is painstaking, requiring hours or days of planning. Yet success meant the difference between months of scarcity and survival. Even smaller mysteries abound. Consider the creation of clothing and insulation. Humans fashioned garments from animal hides, soft furs, and layered materials to retain heat. Imagine a mother teaching her child how to stitch with sinew, fingers nimble despite the cold, each pull of thread creating warmth and protection. These techniques were passed down through generations, evolving slowly as humans experimented and refined their methods. What might it have been like to perfect a cloak or boot that would allow you to endure the harshest blizzards? Each innovation, each adaptation, was both practical and ingenious, quietly transforming survival into mastery. Humans also developed subtle forms of communication and social organization that remain partly mysterious to us today. Imagine a group sharing signals across a frozen field, hand gestures, calls, or patterns in fire smoke. Perhaps these early methods were both practical and symbolic, linking families and clans, guiding hunts, or warning of danger. Every gesture and sound carries meaning, every shared knowledge a lifeline in a vast and dangerous landscape. Then there are the archaeological mysteries that spark curiosity even now. Cave paintings, bone carvings, and small artifacts suggest that humans not only survived but reflected on their lives. Imagine a torch flickering in a dark cave, revealing etched outlines of mammoths and horses. Each line and shadow tells a story of observation, of memory, of imagination. How did these early artists perceive their world so vividly? How did they translate movement, form, and life into these enduring records? Even in extreme conditions, humans sought expression, finding a way to leave traces of their experience for generations to come. And the adaptations were not always solitary or straightforward. Humans often worked together, coordinating hunts, sharing knowledge, and distributing resources. Picture a small community carefully dividing food from a successful hunt, each member contributing to the well-being of others. Cooperation, empathy, and understanding became survival tools, just as crucial as tools, fuzz or fire. Every meal, every shared observation, strengthened bonds that ensured resilience in the face of relentless challenges. Consider, too, the subtle environmental knowledge they developed. Humans noticed which plants survived under frost, which ice was safe to cross, which wind patterns foretold snowstorms. Imagine a hunter pausing to observe a frozen river, tapping it lightly, listening to the subtle echo, knowing when it could bear weight. Such understanding required patience, attention, and experience, skills honed over lifetimes and passed across generations like precious treasure. Even daily routines carry small mysteries. How did humans navigate vast, frozen plains without modern tools? How did they find food when rivers were frozen and animals scarce? How did they endure storms that would freeze unprotected travelers in moments? Each act of survival, no matter how ordinary it might seem, holds a story of observation, ingenuity, and quiet courage. Perhaps a child learning to recognize edible roots or follow animal tracks would carry that knowledge for a lifetime, quietly linking past and future. And then there are the moments of sheer wonder when survival and beauty intertwine. Imagine watching the northern lights shimmer across a dark, icy sky, reflecting in frozen lakes, while the wind whispers across snow-laden trees. Early humans, huddled around fires, must have felt both awe and gratitude, a recognition of their place in the vast, extraordinary world. Even in a time of struggle, moments like these offered comfort, inspiration, and a sense of connection to the larger world. In this way, the last ice age is full of enigmas, not just of environment and climate, but of human skill, ingenuity, and imagination. Every footprint in the snow, every cave carving, every fire-tended meal speaks of a species learning, observing, and adapting to a world of extremes. These are the events and phenomena that invite us to wonder. How did they survive? What drove their innovations, their art, and their communities? And what can we learn from their quiet persistence, their deep observation, and their subtle genius? So, as your mind drifts gently through this frozen world, imagine tracing the footsteps of humans who moved with care, creativity, and courage. Picture them observing, experimenting, cooperating, and surviving against a backdrop of snow, ice, and vast open plains. Sense the rhythm of their days, the slow, deliberate movement, the careful attention to detail, the small triumphs that together form a story of enduring mystery and quiet mastery. The Ice Age is not only a time of survival, it is a time of ingenuity, adaptation, and wonder. It reminds us that even in the harshest environments, humans can observe, imagine, and create solutions that endure. And as we continue, we will explore these mysteries in more detail, examining extraordinary events, the feats of survival, and the subtle threads of life that connect humans to this frozen, magnificent world. Imagine walking through a dense, frost-laden forest, the snow muffling every sound except for the gentle sigh of wind through branches. Here, in this quiet, frozen expanse, early humans moved with extraordinary awareness. Each step was deliberate, each glance careful, guided by the need to survive and the innate curiosity that had long sustained their species. Picture a lone hunter pausing beside a frozen stream. They notice the faint ripple of movement beneath the ice of fish trapped in a small pocket of flowing water. carefully. They craft a small trap from twigs and stone, drawing the water toward a contained area where the fish can be gathered safely. Hours of patient observation, combined with a quiet understanding of nature's rhythms, result in sustenance. Imagine the sense of satisfaction, not loud or boisterous, but quiet, deep, and grounding a small triumph over the challenges of the day. Then consider a group navigating the treacherous expanse of a glacier valley. Massive walls of ice rise on either side, gleaming in pale sunlight, cracks and crevices hinting at hidden dangers. The travelers move slowly, scanning every step, feeling the vibration of shifting ice beneath their feet. Perhaps they pause to mark a route with a simple stone cairn, leaving a subtle signal for those who will follow. These small acts of observation and ingenuity reflect a deep engagement with the landscape, a partnership between humans and the frozen world that required patience, creativity, and courage. Sometimes survival depended on understanding the behavior of animals in astonishing detail. Imagine following the tracks of a mammoth herd across a wide, frozen plain. The footprints reveal patterns, the pace, the direction, the presence of a calf nearby. Perhaps hunters coordinate silently, using natural features like ridges and ice flows to guide the herd toward a safe, prepared location. It is a slow, careful process, requiring knowledge, teamwork, and timing. And when successful, the reward is not just food, but insight into the patterns of life in this vast, frozen ecosystem. Even smaller creatures could teach lessons in survival. Picture a child observing a snow hare as it darts between trees. Its movements precise and cautious. The child notices how it avoids predators, which paths it favors, and how it reacts to changing conditions. Such small observations, repeated day after day, accumulate into practical knowledge that could be used for hunting, foraging, and predicting seasonal patterns. In this way, humans of the Ice Age were perpetual students of the land, quietly learning from every living thing round them. Then there are moments of mystery, when the landscape itself seems to tell stories. Imagine a deep cave, partially hidden beneath a ridge, with ice crystals shimmering at its entrance. Inside, early humans may have left marks, scratches on stone, small carvings, or faint paintings. The purpose of these remains is still partly unknown. Were they ritualistic, instructional, or simply expressions of curiosity and wonder? Stepping into such a cave, you feel a connection across millennia, a quiet acknowledgement that humans have long sought to understand, interpret, and leave traces of their experience. Sometimes survival meant navigating risks that seem unimaginable. Picture a storm sweeping across an open tundra, snow driving in horizontal sheets, visibility near zero. A group must decide whether to wait in a sheltered depression or continue toward a distant fire smoke signal. Every choice carries consequences. Moving too soon could mean frostbite or losing the path. Waiting too long might mean missing a critical hunting opportunity. In these moments, human ingenuity, observation, and intuition intersected with courage. Every decision was a lesson, every outcome a quiet testament to the resilience of life. Humans also found ways to innovate in response to extreme cold. Imagine a group constructing insulated shelters, layering furs carefully, and creating small, controlled fires for warmth. They developed strategies for storing food, protecting water from freezing, and maintaining mobility even under harsh conditions. Perhaps a child watches an elder demonstrate how to layer animal hides to trap heat effectively, learning skills essential for survival. These innovations were small, incremental, and carefully observed, yet they formed the foundation of endurance in a world that demanded constant adaptation. Then there are the more extraordinary, almost unbelievable feats. Imagine a small family following a frozen river for days, encountering little food, yet navigating by subtle cues the angle of the sun, distant mountains, the behavior of birds or animals. They find a hidden valley where frost-thawed soil has yielded roots. A stream runs freely, and game moves cautiously through the woods. For the first time in days, they can rest, gather sustenance, and rekindle hope. Such journeys remind us that survival often hinged on acute observation, intuition, and the patient reading of the environment. Even the simple acts of daily life held stories of ingenuity and quiet courage. Preparing tools, mending clothing, starting a fire in damp conditions, or creating rudimentary sleds for transporting food all required skill, careful attention and persistence. Imagine the rhythm of these tasks, repeated daily, the slow carving of a spear, the careful stitching of furs, the measured tending of embers. Each gesture, small as it may seem, is a thread in the tapestry of survival, woven with care and mindfulness, and amid these practicalities, moments of reflection and/or persisted. Perhaps a young hunter pauses on a ridge, watching the sun glint off distant ice fields, feeling both the chill and a quiet sense of wonder. Perhaps a storyteller recounts a hunt or a mysterious sighting by the fire, embedding lessons into narrative form. These moments of contemplation, curiosity, and creativity remind us that survival was not only about food or warmth, but about understanding, interpreting, and connecting with the world in meaningful ways. So, as your imagination drifts through these frozen landscapes, picture the extraordinary resilience of humans during the last ice age. Each day is a story of observation, ingenuity, patience, and subtle triumphs. Every footprint, every spark of fire, every shared piece of knowledge reflects a species attuned to the rhythms of the land, capable of both careful calculation and quiet wonder. And with this awareness, we step further into the mysteries and phenomena of the Ice Age, ready to explore not just survival, but the deeper questions, the rituals, the innovations, the unexplained traces left behind, and the enduring legacy of human courage and creativity in a frozen world. As the world outside rests beneath a thick blanket of snow, imagine stepping quietly into the entrance of a hidden cave. The walls, cold and uneven beneath your fingertips, seem to hum with quiet energy. Faint light from a torch flickers across the surfaces, revealing shapes etched and painted long ago, images of animals, of humans, and perhaps of events only partly understood. These marks, created tens of thousands of years ago, remain a testament to the curiosity, creativity, and observation of early humans. Picture a herd of mammoths frozen in time on the cave wall, each outline traced with deliberate care, their size, their movement, their interaction captured with remarkable accuracy, as if the artist had observed them for days, learning their habits and gestures. Perhaps these drawings were guides, teaching young hunters about behavior, or perhaps they were stories, preserving memory and wonder. What might it have felt like to create such an image, knowing that only a small group would ever see it, yet leaving a trace that endures across millennia? And there are the more unusual finds, objects that challenge simple explanation, small carvings of animals on bone, abstract symbols etched into stone, and tiny figurines of humans or unknown creatures. Each piece suggests thought, intention, and perhaps even ritual. Imagine holding a small carved figure in your hand, running your fingers over its contours, and sensing the care and attention required to make it. What meaning did it hold for its creator? Was it an object of teaching, of belief, or of memory? Even today, we can only speculate. Humans also left traces in places that seem extraordinary, hidden or protected within caves, cliffs, and rock shelters. Consider footprints preserved in ancient mud or compacted snow, frozen in time, echoing the movement of people who walked thousands of years ago. Perhaps a group paused beside a stream, leaving behind impressions of their feet, a subtle signature of presence, What stories could these footprints tell of daily life, of travel, of survival, of fleeting moments of play or wonder? Each mark invites imagination, quietly connecting us to a world that no longer exists. And then there are the mysteries of human-animal interactions. Evidence suggests that some Ice Age humans may have had surprisingly close relationships with animals not just as prey, but as companions, guides, or even symbolic partners. Imagine a wolf cautiously observing a human camp, or a domesticated reindeer moving alongside hunters. Perhaps these early interactions were tentative, experimental, and highly situational, yet they hint at the beginnings of something profound, a relationship between species rooted in trust, observation, and mutual benefit. Consider also the intricate patterns left behind on tools and weapons. Sharpened flint, bone points, and decorated handles reveal not only functionality but care, intention, and artistry. Each object embodies both survival and thought, suggesting that humans were engaged in more than mere subsistence. They were thinking, creating, and communicating. Imagine a young apprentice watching an elder craft a spear, absorbing not only the technique, but the unspoken lessons of patience, precision, and mindfulness. Some cave art even depicts scenes that are puzzling or fantastical, figures with human and animal characteristics, composite forms, or abstract markings hint at imagination, ritual, or belief systems that remain mysterious. What inspired these images? Were they storytelling devices, spiritual expressions, or early forms of symbolic thinking? Standing before such a wall today, it is easy to feel both awe and curiosity, sensing the depth of human thought in an age of ice and snow. Unusual finds extend beyond caves, into frozen plains, rivers, and forests. Tools buried in sediment, preserved by cold, remnants of dwellings hidden under snow and ice, skeletal remains of animals and humans in positions that suggest ritual or deliberate placement. Each discovery offers clues, yet leaves room for wonder. Imagine carefully uncovering a small stone tool, tracing the marks left by the hand that made it, and feeling a connection that spans thousands of years. What did that hand see, feel, or imagine as it worked? These mysteries are magnified by the subtle evidence of seasonal migration and movement. Humans, like the animals they observed, often traveled great distances, leaving traces in unlikely places. Imagine finding a campsite near a frozen river, with carefully arranged stones, a small fire pit, and scattered remnants of meals. Each detail is a quiet testament to observation, resourcefulness, and an understanding of the land. How did they decide where to settle, where to hunt, where to rest? Even the smallest choices reveal profound adaptation, and amid these phenomena, one cannot ignore the role of imagination. Early humans looked at ice, snow, and shadows, and perhaps saw shapes, stories, or omens. They translated observations into art, ritual, and narrative. Perhaps a flickering fire illuminated moving shadows on a cave wall, inspiring a story told around the hearth. Perhaps a strange pattern in the snow sparked a theory about migration or hunting strategy. These moments illustrate the extraordinary blend of practical survival and creative thought, a combination that allowed humans to endure, innovate, and leave traces that continue to captivate us. So, as you wander in your mind through these hidden caves, frozen plains, and ancient forests, sense the delicate balance between mystery and survival. Every artifact, every painting, every footprint is a whisper from the past, inviting curiosity, reflection, and imagination. Early humans were not merely surviving, they were observing, creating, teaching, and dreaming. Even in the harshest landscapes, there was room for wonder, for interpretation, and for leaving a legacy that reaches across time. And in this quiet reflection, you can sense the essence of the Ice Age, the combination of challenge, ingenuity, and mystery that defines human survival in extraordinary circumstances. Each discovery, Whether it is a cave painting, a small figurine, or a subtle trace in snow, connects us to a world of ice, observation, creativity, and quiet courage. Imagine the soft crunch of snow beneath careful footsteps as a small human group navigates a vast frozen landscape. The wind whispers across open plains, carrying distant echoes of animal calls and the subtle creak of ice. Every sound, every movement, is noted, measured, and interpreted. This world demands vigilance, patience, and ingenuity, but it also offers lessons in observation, adaptation, and quiet resilience. One extraordinary strategy involved how humans stored and preserved food. Picture a hunter, carefully caching meat in a shallow trench, covering it with snow and leaves, or suspending it in cold, dry caves. By understanding the interplay of cold air, shade, and airflow, they extended the shelf life of essential nutrients. Even simple root vegetables were treated with similar care. Often buried under insulating layers of soil and moss, these techniques reflect a deep, intuitive grasp of natural principles, a quiet science born of necessity and observation. Some survival strategies seem almost miraculous to us today. Imagine a small family crossing a frozen river, using long poles to test ice thickness, moving slowly and deliberately. Each step guided by accumulated knowledge of patterns, sounds, and temperature. Perhaps they paused to watch the distant behavior of animals, noting the safest paths and timing their crossing to coincide with changes in weather. Each decision is small but critical, reflecting an understanding of the environment that is both practical and profound. Humans also developed ingenious clothing systems, layering furs and hides in specific sequences, using sinew or plant fibers to stitch and fasten. They created garments capable of withstanding severe cold. Imagine observing the meticulous process, selecting hides with specific textures, stretching them for flexibility, sewing carefully with repetitive, deliberate motions. These small innovations allowed humans to maintain mobility, warmth, and protection, turning otherwise harsh landscapes into navigable territory. Water management was equally vital. Streams and rivers often froze solid, or became treacherous during thaws. Humans found subtle ways to gather and store water, often digging beneath ice or using containers fashioned from bark, stone, or bone. Imagine waiting patiently for the sun to melt snow just enough to capture a stream of liquid water, every drop preserved and treasured. This quiet attentiveness ensured that hydration, essential to survival, was maintained even in the harshest conditions. Interaction with animals also required strategic thinking. Humans learned not just to hunt, but to track, anticipate, and sometimes outwit the most formidable creatures. Imagine following the tracks of a saber-toothed cat cautiously, understanding where it hunted, how it moved, and when it rested. Perhaps humans avoided direct confrontation, instead observing and adjusting their paths to coexist safely while continuing to hunt more accessible prey. This required patience, observation, and a subtle understanding of animal behavior. Sophisticated, often unnoticed intelligence. Sometimes survival relied on small innovations that are easy to overlook. Fire was central not just for warmth, but for cooking, signaling, and protection. Imagine starting a fire in damp conditions, carefully selecting kindling, adjusting airflow, and tending embers with deliberate, rhythmic movements. Smoke could be used to drive prey toward traps, or to signal distant groups. Every act with fire was an experiment, a careful calibration between utility and safety, reflecting both creativity and precise observation. Some of the most mysterious discoveries reveal humans' interaction with their environment in almost ritualistic ways. Consider clusters of stones ranged in patterns, or subtle depressions in caves or on plains that seem intentionally shaped. These arrangements could have been symbolic, practical, or both, perhaps marking hunting grounds, seasonal camps, or teaching locations standing before such evidence today. One senses both order and curiosity, a human desire to understand and structure the world. And then there are the remarkable adaptations to environmental extremes. Humans not only endured cold, but thrived in conditions that would overwhelm most creatures. Imagine a family traveling across a snowbound valley, improvising sleds from wood and fur to transport food, carrying provisions with minimal loss of heat or energy. Perhaps they built windbreaks from ice and branches, crafting temporary shelters in unexpected locations. Every adaptation shows ingenuity born from necessity, guided by observation, experimentation, and imagination. Even the most ordinary daily routines are filled with subtle acts of intelligence. Preparing furs for clothing, sharpening tools for hunting, tending fires, and navigating treacherous terrain all required constant attention and adjustment. Picture a hunter pausing mid-task to watch the sun's position, adjusting direction based on subtle shifts in shadows and light, or a child learning to recognize animal tracks, practicing the careful reading of terrain. Each moment builds knowledge, connects generations, and strengthens the intricate web of survival. And amid these practical strategies, moments of wonder persisted. Humans likely paused to observe auroras shimmering across frozen skies, ice crystals catching light like scattered jewels, or distant herds moving in patterns that seemed choreographed. These moments, quiet and reflective, may have inspired storytelling, art, and ritual threads of imagination woven into the fabric of survival. Even in extreme conditions, the human mind sought not only to endure but to perceive, interpret, and marvel. So as your imagination drifts through these frozen landscapes, picture humans moving with care, inventiveness, and quiet intelligence. Every act, no matter how small, reflects a deep understanding of the environment, a subtle mastery of tools, and a patient, observant engagement with life itself. Survival was more than mere endurance. It was a blend of skill, creativity, and thoughtful observation, a delicate dance between humans and the icy world they inhabited. And in this awareness, you sense the essence of the Ice Age, a period of extreme challenge met with extraordinary ingenuity, a world of mystery, and a quiet testament to the adaptability, curiosity, and resilience of early humans. Each stone, each tool, each footprint tells a story of survival that is still unfolding in our imagination today. Imagine standing on the edge of a vast, frozen plain. The sky is pale and heavy, clouds stretching in endless layers above, carrying the promise of snow. The wind moves across the ice with a low, resonant whisper brushing against your face, shifting the drifts in patterns that seem alive. This was the world of the Ice Age, magnificent, harsh and unpredictable. Survival required more than skill. It demanded attentiveness, patience, and an almost instinctive understanding of the environment. Large-scale animal migrations were among the most extraordinary phenomena of this period. Picture a herd of reindeer sweeping across a tundra plain, thousands moving in a wave-like rhythm. The ground trembles softly beneath their feet, a subtle vibration felt by hunters watching from a distant ridge. Tracking these migrations required acute observation. Patterns of wind, snow, and subtle signs of animal behavior all provided clues. Perhaps humans paused to rest nearer. Frozen river, noticing footprints embedded in hardened snow, silently estimating the size and speed of the herd. Timing and placement were critical. Too early, and the prey might escape. Too late, and opportunity would be lost. Extreme weather events added another layer of challenge. Imagine a sudden blizzard sweeping across a valley, snowflakes whipping horizontally, reducing visibility to mere feet. Hunters huddle behind rocky outcrops or windbreaks of snow, listening to the muffled roar of wind. Temperature drops quickly, frost forming on eyelashes and hair. Yet movement is necessary to find shelter, food, or other members of the group. Every decision is a delicate balance of risk and necessity. Every observation. A critical tool for survival, humans developed subtle strategies to anticipate these events. Perhaps they noticed the behavior of animals, the way a herd gathers before a storm, or how birds change flight patterns in response to shifting winds. Even subtle environmental cues, changes in snow texture, the movement of clouds, or distant sounds echoing across ice could signal approaching weather. Imagine interpreting these signs, passing knowledge quietly from one generation to the next, so that survival became an art of observation and foresight. Occasionally, rare and awe-inspiring events shaped both survival and imagination. Picture the eruption of a distant volcano, smoke and ash drifting across the horizon, altering sunlight and temperature. Or perhaps a sudden flood caused by a melting glacier sends ice and water rushing through valleys. Humans witnessed and adapted to these events, learning to interpret subtle environmental changes and respond with creative solutions. Such experiences were not only practical lessons, they also shaped stories, myths, and a sense of wonder at the power of the natural world. Large predators added another layer of drama. Imagine wolves or saber-toothed cats moving stealthily across frozen landscapes, their eyes glinting in low light, their movements precise and deliberate. Early humans had to consider both opportunity and danger when tracking prey in the same territory. Observation, patience, and subtle strategies became essential. Perhaps hunters used trained features, coordinated movements, or camouflage to minimize risk while maximizing the chances of a successful hunt. Every encounter with predators was a delicate negotiation, a test of awareness, and a reminder of the constant presence of life beyond the human circle. And then there were subtle seasonal changes, less dramatic than storms, but equally impactful. Imagine noticing the first thaw of spring, the slight softening of snow that reveals edible roots, the movement of migratory birds signaling shifts in climate. Even small changes mattered, the growth of moss, the rippling of a stream, or the angle of sunlight reflecting off ice. Humans learned to read these subtle cues with extraordinary sensitivity, linking natural observation with action: when to hunt, when to migrate, when to prepare for harsher months ahead. Even the interplay of sunlight and shadow created subtle mysteries. Picture long winter shadows, stretching across plains, shifting imperceptibly as the day passes. Hunters may have used these natural markers to estimate time, to navigate across featureless ice fields, or to determine the best position for tracking prey. Every detail, no matter how small, could be critical. Observation was constant, and awareness became second nature, blending seamlessly with daily life. Occasionally, humans witnessed events that were rare, almost magical. In the frozen landscape, perhaps the aurora borealis shimmered across the night sky, green and violet ribbons reflecting in frozen rivers and snow. Perhaps a herd of animals moved in, patterns that seemed choreographed, crossing valleys and rivers in synchronized rhythm. Such sights could inspire storytelling, ritual, or quiet reflection moments when survival and/or intertwined. And yet, amid these dramatic phenomena, humans persevered. They adapted clothing, tools, and shelters to withstand extremes. They observed and anticipated the movement of animals, and the onset of storms. They used subtle intelligence to read landscapes, predict change, and collaborate within groups. Every action, every observation, every subtle innovation formed a delicate web that allowed humans to not merely endure but to thrive in extraordinary circumstances. So, as your mind drifts across these frozen plains, imagine standing among these early humans, feeling the wind, seeing the distant hood, sensing the power of storm clouds gathering, and noticing the subtle cues of survival etched into every footprint, every movement, every whispered observation. The Ice Age was a world of extremes, yet it was also a world rich with learning, creativity, and quiet resilience. And in this vast, frozen canvas, humans became not only survivors but observers, innovators and storytellers, leaving traces that continue to intrigue, inspire, and remind us of the delicate interplay between life and the extraordinary world it inhabits. As the vast, frozen landscapes of the Ice Age slowly fade in your imagination, it is worth pausing to reflect on what these extraordinary stories reveal about humans. How did early humans not only survive but adapt, innovate, and even thrive in such extreme conditions? And what can modern science, anthropology, and archaeology tell us about these subtle and sometimes mysterious processes? First, consider the incredible ingenuity revealed through tools and artifacts. Archaeologists have uncovered stone points, bone implements, and intricate carvings that suggest not only practical function but careful observation and experimentation. Each tool represents a solution to a problem: piercing hides, cutting meat, or crafting clothing. But the designs also suggest foresight, planning, and subtle knowledge of materials, qualities that bridge survival with creativity. Imagine an ancient artisan carefully shaping a stone point, testing it, adjusting its angle, and passing on the knowledge to the next generation. This attention to detail demonstrates that survival was not merely instinctive, it was intelligent, reflective, and communal. Anthropologists have studied human migration patterns during the Ice Age, revealing remarkable adaptability. Early humans traveled vast distances across glaciers, plains, and forests, often following animal herds or seasonal changes. These movements required extraordinary knowledge of geography, weather patterns, and animal behavior. Modern research suggests that these populations maintain social networks over hundreds of miles, sharing strategies, knowledge, and even genetic diversity. What if humans of the Ice Age were as attuned to their environment and to each other as we are today, only in a quieter, more intimate way, guided by observation and necessity? Another insight comes from the study of diet and nutrition. Evidence from preserved bones, plant remains, and isotopic analysis suggests that humans were flexible omnivores, carefully balancing meat, fish, roots, berries, and other resources depending on season and location. This adaptability may have been key to their survival, especially during harsh winters when certain food sources were scarce. Imagine families teaching children to recognize edible plants under frost, or how to preserve meat in cold, dry caves. Each act was a lesson in both observation and memory, a subtle intelligence that guided life across generations. Anthropologists also explore the social dimensions of survival. Humans were not solitary survivors. Cooperation was essential. Shared knowledge, collective hunting strategies, and cooperative care of young and elderly were critical. These social behaviors suggest that empathy, teaching, and communication were as vital as fire or clothing. Perhaps the quiet storytelling around the fire, the sharing of knowledge about hunting or weather, or the subtle rituals performed before a hunt, strengthened both survival skills and social bonds. It is a reminder that human resilience is often inseparable from community, trust, and collaboration. The study of cave art, carvings, and symbolic artifacts provides another layer of understanding. Anthropologists and archaeologists interpret these creations as evidence of abstract thinking, imagination, and cultural continuity. The depictions of animals, humans, and even hybrid forms suggest not only observation but interpretation and ability to think symbolically, plan, and perhaps even teach through visual storytelling. Imagine a young child watching an elder sketch a mammoth, learning not only the shape and behavior of the animal but absorbing a broader understanding of the world and the human place within it. Modern science also explores the physiological adaptations that allowed humans to endure extreme cold. Research suggests that humans developed efficient thermoregulation, skillful use of clothing and shelter, and dietary adaptations that maximized energy and warmth. Imagine the subtle layering of furs, the careful positioning of fires, and the attentive monitoring of body temperature, all small but critical decisions that ensured survival. These adaptations were not random, they were informed by observation, experimentation, and experience accumulated over generations. Even now, there are questions that remain open, inviting curiosity and imagination. What motivated humans to leave cave art in places difficult to access? Why were certain tools shaped in intricate ways that seem unnecessary for survival? What social ritual practices guided movement, collaboration, and decision-making? Each unanswered question highlights the depth of human ingenuity and the subtle interplay between necessity, observation, and imagination. And beyond survival, there is evidence of cultural and cognitive development. Burial practices, symbolic objects, and ritualistic arrangements suggest that humans were reflecting on life, mortality, and community. Imagine the careful placement of a small object in a burial site. A silent gesture that conveys respect, memory, or belief. Even in a world dominated by survival, humans created meaning, connecting the practical with the symbolic in a delicate balance that continues to fascinate scholars today. Finally, considering the Ice Age from this perspective invites reflection on our own relationship with the environment. Humans of this era lived intimately with the land, observing subtle patterns, predicting changes, and responding creatively. Their survival required attention, patience, and adaptation, qualities that remain relevant even in modern times. Imagine walking through a snowy forest today, noticing the movement of wildlife, the patterns in snow, or the play of light on ice. The same attentiveness, the same curiosity, bridges thousands of years, linking past and present. So as you settle into the quiet of this exploration, consider the lessons of the Ice Age. Survival was never simply about enduring cold or finding food. It was about observation, innovation, empathy, community, and imagination. Every tool, every footprint, every faint mark on a cave wall tells a story of human resilience, subtle intelligence, and creativity. And these stories continue to inspire curiosity, reflection, and wonder, bridging the frozen past with our present understanding. As the Ice Age recedes in your mind, leaving trails of snow-dusted plains and glimmering caves, we begin to consider the broader implications of human survival. How did early humans move across continents? And how did these migrations shape the development of culture, technology, and social systems? What can we learn from these ancient movements about human resilience, ingenuity, and curiosity? Migration during the Ice Age was not merely movement from one point to another, it was a careful negotiation with the environment. Humans followed animal herds, navigated river valleys, and explored icebound plateaus, often venturing into territories that were unfamiliar and hazardous. Archaeologists have traced these movements through genetic evidence, fossilized footprints, and scattered artifacts, revealing pathways across Europe, Asia, and the Americas. Imagine a small family moving silently along a frozen river, observing subtle cues in snow and ice, interpreting tracks left by both predator and prey, and deciding each step with care. Their journey was not random, it was deliberate, informed by observation, experience, and the shared knowledge of generations. Cultural evolution occurred alongside these migrations. As humans moved into new environments, they adapted tools, clothing, shelter, and social practices to local conditions. In northern regions, heavier furs, insulated shelters, and collaborative hunting strategies became vital. In milder regions, humans experimented with plant-based diets, small-scale fishing, and intricate artistic expression. These adaptations suggest a remarkable flexibility, a cognitive and cultural intelligence that allowed humans not only to survive but to thrive in diverse and challenging ecosystems. Imagine observing the subtle difference between two hunting strategies, one group using a natural ice channel to guide prey, another building stone corrals for smaller animals. Each method reflects careful thought, shared experience, and cultural knowledge encoded across generations. Theories about these migrations also highlight the role of climate in shaping human movement. As glaciers advanced or retreated, landscapes transformed, rivers froze, forests receded, plains expanded. Humans responded with remarkable adaptability, often finding corridors that allowed them to traverse otherwise inhospitable regions. Imagine following a seasonal thaw, navigating ice fields with careful attention to subtle environmental cues. This interplay between climate and migration demonstrates the dynamic relationship humans had with their surroundings, not passive observers, but active participants in a world of constant change. Another layer of mystery involves the development of symbolic thought and cultural practices. Cave art, carved figurines, and ritualized burials suggest that humans were not only adapting to survive but were reflecting on their existence, relationships, and the natural world. Anthropologists propose that these behaviors were early expressions of identity, memory, and social cohesion. Picture a small group gathered in a dim cave, recounting a hunt or marking an important event on the wall. Such practices may have strengthened social bonds, transmitted knowledge, and created a shared sense of meaning essential for groups navigating the uncertainties of Ice Age life. The persistence of certain motifs across distant regions raises intriguing questions. Similar depictions of animals, hunting scenes, and symbolic patterns appear thousands of miles apart, hinting at convergent cultural evolution or even long-range communication. How did these ideas spread? Were they carried by migrating families, traded through networks of travelers, or independently invented by different communities observing the same environmental challenges? Each possibility opens the door to speculation, highlighting both the creativity and the adaptability of early humans. Even tools and technology reflect cultural evolution. The refinement of stone points, bone implements, and composite tools suggests experimentation, teaching, and incremental improvement over generations. Imagine a young apprentice carefully observing an elder shape a spear, then attempting the same technique, making subtle adjustments along the way. This slow accumulation of knowledge, combined with observation and trial and error, laid the foundation for future technological breakthroughs. Every innovation, however small, was a survival advantage, carefully honed in response to environmental pressures and social needs. Yet, many mysteries endure. How did humans coordinate hunting on such large scales without formal communication systems? What prompted the creation of certain ritual objects, or the choice of particular locations for cave art? Why did some groups survive and flourish while others vanished, even within similar environments? These questions remind us that while science and archaeology provide remarkable insights, they also reveal the limits of our knowledge. Inviting curiosity and imaginative exploration, the study of Ice Age migrations and cultural evolution also illuminates human resilience in the face of uncertainty. Early humans demonstrated an ability to innovate, observe, and adapt, skills that remain deeply relevant today. Imagine their quiet attentiveness, watching subtle weather changes, learning the behavior of animals, experimenting with tools and clothing, and passing knowledge through generations. These practices reveal not just survival strategies, but the cultivation of awareness, intelligence, and cooperation. And so, as your imagination drifts through these ancient landscapes, you can envision humans moving thoughtfully across continents, observing, experimenting, and teaching. Their migrations were not merely journeys, they were a dialogue with the land, a negotiation with climate, and a dance of cultural evolution that shaped both survival and identity. Every movement, every innovation, every symbolic expression adds to the rich tapestry of Ice Age human life, leaving traces that continue to fascinate and inspire us today. In reflecting on these migrations and cultural developments, we sense the profound adaptability of humans, their ability to read environments, respond creatively, cooperate socially, and imagine worlds beyond the immediate. These qualities allowed them to navigate ice, snow, and vast distances, and to lay the foundations of culture and knowledge that echo across millennia. As we linger in the quiet imagination of Ice Age landscapes, it becomes clear that the story of human survival is not only one of courage and adaptation, but also of enduring mysteries. Archaeologists, anthropologists, and geneticists continue to uncover fragments of the past, each discovery a subtle thread in the vast tapestry of human experience. Yet, so much remains unknown, inviting us to reflect, wonder, and imagine alongside the people who lived thousands of years ago. Consider, for instance, the placement of certain cave art and symbolic objects in locations that are difficult to access. Some chambers lie deep within complex cave networks, requiring light, careful navigation, and coordinated effort. Why did humans venture into these hidden spaces to create art or leave? Objects. Were these sites sacred, instructional, or purely expressive? Perhaps they were a combination, places for teaching, reflection, and communal storytelling, offering both practical and symbolic value. Standing in front of these remnants today, it is easy to feel the echo of human curiosity reaching across millennia. A quiet but persistent reminder of the human desire to understand and leave a mark. Genetic studies offer another window into Ice Age mysteries. DNA from fossils reveals patterns of migration, interbreeding, and population dynamics. Some groups thrived and spread widely, while others disappeared, leaving behind only subtle traces in our genetic makeup. What factors influence these outcomes? Environmental pressures, social structures, technological innovation, or perhaps chance? The interplay of these forces reminds us that survival was never guaranteed, and that human ingenuity was always exercised in the context of uncertainty and risk. The study of climate and environment also informs our understanding of Ice Age survival. Paleoclimatologists reconstruct temperature fluctuations, ice sheet movements, and changing landscapes, revealing the extraordinary challenges humans faced. Seasonal cycles dictated resource availability, migration routes, and settlement patterns, subtle observations like the behavior of animals or the growth of plants could spell the difference between nourishment and scarcity, life and death. Early humans were not passive victims of climate, they were active readers of the environment, interpreting patterns and acting with remarkable foresight and flexibility. Even social and cultural dynamics hold mysteries. How were knowledge, skills, and traditions passed between groups? How did storytelling, art, and ritual influence cooperation and cohesion? Anthropologists suggest that symbolic expression played a role far beyond aesthetics, shaping memory, teaching, and social identity. Imagine a group gathered by firelight, exchanging stories of hunts, seasonal changes, or rare events. These narratives may have encoded crucial survival knowledge, transmitted moral lessons, or simply nurtured a shared sense of wonder and belonging. Interactions with other species also raise questions. Evidence of early humans coexisting with now extinct animals, mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant deer reveals both practical and possibly symbolic relationships. Some researchers speculate that early humans may have observed and learned from animal behavior in subtle, sophisticated ways, integrating these lessons into hunting strategies, movement patterns, And cultural narratives. Imagine silently watching a mammoth herd, noticing their migratory rhythm. Then adjusting the timing of a hunt or the placement of a temporary shelter. Such observations reflect patience, intelligence, and a quiet attentiveness that modern life rarely demands. Technological evolution is equally fascinating. Stone tools, bone implements. And even simple clothing demonstrate careful refinement over generations. Archaeologists find patterns of incremental improvement, experimentation and adaptation, early humans learning from success and failure alike. Every tool carries a story of observation, testing, and subtle creative insight. Imagine a young apprentice learning to sharpen a spear, observing how different angles affect penetration and passing that knowledge along. These small acts of trial, reflection, and sharing are the foundations of cultural continuity. Even the seemingly inexplicable objects that defy clear purpose, abstract symbols, or anomalous arrangements remains a source of wonder. Perhaps they served ritual, educational, or symbolic functions. Or perhaps they are reminders of the limitless imagination of humans confronting extreme environments. Every anomaly sparks questions. Why here? Why now? What did it mean to the people who created it? And while definitive answers remain elusive, these mysteries encourage reflection, imagination, and a deep respect for the ingenuity of Ice Age humans. Finally, there's the subtle lesson of patience and attentiveness. Ice Age survival was rarely about sudden, heroic feats. It was about careful observation, incremental improvement, and quiet decision-making. Every step, every choice, and every gesture mattered. Humans learned to read patterns in snow, ice, and animal movement. They observed the stars, the sun, and seasonal shifts. They honed tools, prepared clothing, and organized social systems, and they did so not in isolation, but within communities, learning from one another, teaching and adapting collectively. So, as your mind wanders through the frozen forests, icy plains, and hidden caves of the Ice Age, consider the extraordinary balance humans maintained. Survival intertwined with creativity, necessity fused with imagination, and observation paired with reflection. The mysteries they left behind are not just puzzles for scholars, they're invitations to contemplate the depth of human ingenuity, the subtle power of culture, and the resilience that allowed our ancestors to endure extreme conditions and leave traces that still captivate us today. In this quiet contemplation, we begin to see that Ice Age humans were not merely surviving, they were learning, teaching, innovating, and imagining, leaving a legacy that continues to inspire wonder, curiosity, and a gentle respect for the intricate dance between humans and the environment. As we slowly leave behind the frozen plains, the whispering winds, and the hidden caves of the Ice Age, it is a good moment to pause and reflect on what these ancient landscapes and the people who inhabited them can teach us. The story of Ice Age survival is not simply about enduring cold or scarcity. It is a story of observation, ingenuity, community, and imagination. It is a quiet testament to the resilience and adaptability that define our species. Imagine for a moment the families who walked across vast icy valleys, carrying food and tools, watching carefully for predators and signs of the changing seasons. Each movement was deliberate, informed by years of observation and learning. Each innovation, from layered clothing to sharpened tools, was born from a careful dialogue with the environment. And in the midst of survival, these humans still found space for creativity, etching animals into cave walls, carving small figurines, or observing the stars above frozen forests. One of the most enduring lessons from this period is the importance of attentiveness. Ice Age humans were acutely aware of their surroundings. They noticed the subtle changes in snow, the tracks of animals, the shifting light of the sun across frozen landscapes. Their survival depended not on more strength alone, but on quiet observation, careful planning, and the ability to respond thoughtfully to an ever-changing world. This attentiveness allowed them to thrive even under extreme conditions, and it reminds us of the value of noticing the small details in our own lives, the rhythms of nature, the patterns in our daily experiences, and the opportunities hidden in subtle shifts around us. Another key lesson is the power of cooperation and community. Survival in harsh landscapes required sharing knowledge, skills, and resources. People hunted together, taught one another the ways of the land, and passed down stories and practices from generation to generation. Every gesture of help, every lesson shared, was part of a delicate network that sustained life. In reflecting on this, we see that resilience is rarely solitary, it grows in connection, in the quiet exchange of knowledge, and in the care we show for one another. And yet, perhaps most inspiring is the creativity and imagination of Ice Age humans. In caves, under flickering torchlight, they drew, carved, and shaped symbols that reached far beyond immediate survival. They reflected on their lives, their surroundings, and their place in the world. In doing so, they created meaning in the midst of challenge, leaving traces that allow us to imagine their experiences today. Even in the harshest environments, there was room for wonder, storytelling, and quiet reflection as you let your mind drift through these frozen forests and open plains one last time. Think of the legacy these early humans left behind. Their footprints, their tools, and their art remind us that survival is not just about enduring, it is about engaging deeply with the world, observing, learning, innovating, and imagining. It is about noticing what others might overlook, and finding both practical and creative ways to respond. Imagine the soft hush of a snow-covered valley at dawn, the quiet ripple of a distant hood, or the faint glow of firelight flickering inside a cave. These moments, both real and imagined, carry with them a gentle reminder: life, even in its most challenging form, can inspire ingenuity, curiosity, and beauty. And just as Ice Age humans left traces for us to discover and reflect upon, we to leave footprints in our own world, shaping our environment and the experiences of those who follow. In this quiet reflection, we find that the Ice Age was not only a period of extreme survival, it was a period that nurtured observation, creativity, collaboration, and resilience. By imagining the lives of those who walked across frozen landscapes, hunted in coordinated ways, created art, and passed knowledge across generations, we honor not only their ingenuity, but also the human spirit itself. So, as your attention slowly drifts, let the quiet of these ancient landscapes settle around you. Let the lessons of attentiveness, cooperation, and imagination guide your thoughts. And let the gentle wonder of human resilience, visible in every footprint, tool, and cave painting, inspire both calm and curiosity as you rest, letting the story of the Ice Age carry you into quiet reflection and gentle sleep. Now, as the last echoes of Ice Age winds drift softly through your imagination, we arrive at a quiet resting place in our journey. The frozen plains, the whispering forests, the flickering fires in hidden caves, they slowly fade into a serene stillness, leaving only the sense of wonder, resilience, and subtle human ingenuity behind. Think of the people who walked these landscapes. Each footprint, in snow or mud, was a small story, a record of thought, observation, and careful decision-making. Every tool, every carved stone or bone, tells of problem-solving, patience, and creativity, and every cave painting, every symbolic object, whispers of imagination and reflection, remind us that even in the harshest conditions, humans sought meaning, connection, and beauty. Imagine the soft hush of snow settling over plains where mammoths once roamed, the distant call of animals fading into silence, and the quiet warmth of a carefully tended fire inside a cave. These images, though distant in time, invite us to pause and reflect on the qualities that sustained life: attentiveness, cooperation, adaptability, and a touch of wonder. These qualities are timeless, extending beyond the Ice Age into every generation that follows. The story of Ice Age survival is, at its heart, a story of connection. Humans were connected to each other, passing knowledge from parent to child, mentor to apprentice. They were connected to their environment, reading subtle cues in snow, ice, wind, and animal movement, and they were connected to a larger sense of curiosity and imagination, creating symbols, telling stories, and leaving traces that echo across thousands of years. As your mind drifts in this quiet reflection, allow yourself to feel the gentle rhythm of their lives, the slow pacing of observation, the careful decisions. The quiet moments of awe before an aurora-lit sky or a distant herd, these are not just remnants of the past, they are lessons in mindfulness, patience, and curiosity. Ice Age humans teach us that even amidst challenge, there is space for reflection, creativity, and subtle joy. And now, as the frozen landscape soften into memory, let the warmth of understanding and calm fill your mind. You have walked with early humans across vast plains, through icy forests, and into hidden caves. You have observed their ingenuity, felt their attentiveness, and glimpsed their quiet imagination. Let this knowledge settle gently, like snow softly covering the land, leaving a sense of calm, wonder, and quiet reflection in this stillness. Remember the subtle threads that carried human life through extreme conditions: curiosity, observation, cooperation, and creativity. These threads connect the past to the present, guiding us in our own journeys, reminding us of the quiet power of resilience and imagination. And as sleep approaches, allow the echoes of the Ice Age, the whisper of wind, the flicker of firelight, the soft crunch of snow beneath careful feet to carry you gently into rest, leaving you inspired, serene, and connected to the vast story of human survival. The Ice Age ends not with a dramatic conclusion, but with a gentle quiet, the enduring legacy of those who observed, adapted, and imagined. And in this quiet, we to find space to pause, to dream, to rest. As you continue to drift in the quiet of your imagination, the icy landscapes of the past slowly soften into memory. Picture the frozen valleys stretching into the distance, bathed in the pale light of a winter sun. Snow blankets the ground with a soft hush, muffling sound and giving the world a calm, gentle rhythm. You can almost hear the faint creak of ice, the soft rustle of a distant herd moving through the forest, or the whisper of wind against frost-covered branches. In this quiet, it is easy to imagine the people who lived here thousands of years ago. They moved carefully, watched intently, and thought deeply about every choice, every step they took. Every fire they kindled, every tool they shaped was part of a delicate balance between necessity and creativity. Even in extreme cold and harsh conditions, they found ways to connect with one another, share stories, and imagine worlds beyond the immediate. Consider a small group huddled near a fire inside a cave, the flickering flames reflecting off walls painted with animals they had observed outside. Perhaps a young child points at a mammoth, asking questions, learning the habits of the herd. An elder smiles quietly, teaching not just survival skills, but patience, attentiveness, and a sense of wonder. Even in these frozen times, curiosity and imagination thrived quietly, like a small flame holding back the vast cold. It is remarkable to think how much humans relied on subtle observation. They noticed patterns in snowfall, animal tracks, and the changing light of the seasons. They learned which plants could be eaten, how to preserve meat, and how to fashion tools that would last for months or years. Every action required mindfulness, patience, and careful thought. In this, there is a gentle lesson for us too, in paying attention to the small details of our world. We can find both wisdom and calm, even amidst complexity or challenge. Even the mysteries they left behind, the hidden caves, the carvings, the symbols whose meanings we may never fully know, invite us to pause and imagine. What were they thinking as they etched these marks? What feelings or hopes did they carry as they prepared for a hunt, a journey, or a long winter? Perhaps some of the answers are lost to time, yet the questions themselves connect us to their lives, bridging thousands of years with imagination, empathy, and quiet reflection. And as you continue to breathe slowly and deeply, let these images settle in your mind. Picture the snow slowly melting under a soft sun, the warmth of a fire lingering in a cave, the careful footsteps of humans moving across a frozen landscape with grace, patience, and ingenuity. Allow yourself to feel the calm rhythm of their days, the gentle unfolding of life, and the enduring presence of creativity, cooperation, and curiosity. This is a story of survival not only through physical endurance, but through intelligence, imagination, and connection. It reminds us that even in the most challenging environments, life finds ways to flourish, guided by careful observation, collaboration, and the small acts of creativity that make each day meaningful. As your thoughts drift gently towards sleep, know that these ancient echoes, footsteps in snow, flickering firelight, whispered stories carry lessons that linger quietly. They remind us that curiosity, resilience, and attentiveness are timeless qualities, and that even in the stillest moments, there is a world full of wonder to observe, imagine, and appreciate. Now, let the soft hush of snow, the quiet glow of firelight, and the gentle rhythm of life in the ice age carry you into a deep, calm rest with each breath. You are connected to those who came before, learning from their patience, their ingenuity, and their quiet curiosity. Sleep slowly, peacefully, and gently, carried by the stories of human survival across frozen landscapes and the subtle, enduring power of imagination. As the quiet of the ice age stretches round you, imagine a morning slowly unfolding in a small group's temporary camp. The soft glow of dawn filters through frosted trees, dusting the snow with pale gold. Smoke from the night's fire drifts lazily upward, curling into the crisp air. There is a subtle rhythm to the day, the careful movement of people, the quiet steps of animals nearby, the gentle crackle of ice and branches as the world awakens. Perhaps a family prepares for the day's hunt. A young person tightens furs round their shoulders, feeling the warmth and protection they provide. An elder adjusts a sharpened spear, checking the balance and weight with practiced hands. They communicate with gestures and quiet words, passing along knowledge accumulated over years. Even decades, every preparation, every movement, is deliberate, guided by experience, observation, and shared understanding. Notice the delicate attentiveness in their actions. Someone scouts the terrain, observing tracks in the snow, faint impressions left by a herd of deer, or perhaps a lone predator. They pause, studying the patterns, and make decisions that may guide the entire group. Each choice matters, yet it is made with patience rather than rush. There is a certain serenity in this care, a deep connection to the land, to the seasons, and to one another. And still, amid the careful work, there is space for curiosity and wonder. Perhaps a child finds a feather caught in frost, marveling at the delicate structure, or a small icicle glistening in the morning sun. An adult smiles quietly, encouraging the observation, knowing that these small moments foster understanding, memory, and imagination. Life in the Ice Age was challenging, yes, but it also offered countless opportunities for a quiet reflection and gentle appreciation of the world. As you picture the scene, allow yourself to move slowly through it. Feel the crisp air against your skin, the soft crunch of snow underfoot, and the warmth of shared fires. Listen to the faint, distant calls of animals, the hush of trees, and the whisper of wind over icy streams. In these details, there is calm, there is beauty. And there is the subtle rhythm of life unfolding even in the harshest conditions, Ice Age humans. Remind us that survival was never only about strength, it was about mindfulness, observation, and cooperation. Every quiet action, every small gesture, every shared moment of teaching or discovery helped shape a resilient and adaptive community. And in this quiet, we too can find inspiration to observe, to reflect, and to move gently through our own world with patience, curiosity, and calm. Now, as your mind floats gently through the quiet remnants of the Ice Age, imagine the day slowly giving way to evening, the pale light of the sun dims behind distant icy peaks, casting long, soft shadows across frozen valleys. The snow glows faintly, reflecting the cool, peaceful tones of twilight. Everything moves in slow, deliberate rhythms. The wind whispers softly through bare branches, a distant stream murmurs under thin layers of ice, and the world seems to pause in serene stillness. In this calm, imagine the small group of humans settling in for the night. Fires are lit carefully, casting flickering warmth across walls of frost and stone. They huddle close, sharing stories in hushed voices, passing on knowledge, memories, and quiet wisdom. Perhaps someone sketches a simple animal form on the cave wall, a gentle reminder of the day's hunt, all the creatures that roam the surrounding lands. Every action is purposeful, yet gentle, reflecting both survival and the quiet joys of shared life. Notice how deeply connected these people are to one another, to their environment, and to the rhythms of the natural world. Even amidst challenge, there is mindfulness, patience, and subtle celebration of life. They observe patterns in the stars, feel the shifting seasons, and honor the small victories of each day. This attentiveness, creativity, and collaboration are what allow them not only to survive, but to cultivate meaning and beauty in their world. As your thoughts drift with this scene, picture the fire's glow fading gradually into the soft darkness of night. Snowflakes, light and delicate, drift silently from the sky, settling like whispers across the frozen landscape. The animals have retreated to hidden forests and valleys. The group rests, wrapped in furs, breathing in rhythm with one another, and listening to the gentle hush of the night. And in this moment, let yourself feel the same calm. Your body relaxes, your mind slows, and your imagination drifts through the icy plains, the whispering forests, and the flickering cave lights. You are carried by the enduring echoes of human observation, cooperation, curiosity, and creativity, qualities that shaped life in the Ice Age and continue to resonate across time. Every soft sound, the crackle of the fire, the distant call of an animal, the quiet wind is part of a gentle rhythm that leads naturally into rest. Let your breath match this rhythm, slow and steady. Feel the calm settle over your thoughts, as though the world itself is sighing quietly into sleep. And now, as the last flicker of firelight fades in your mind, and the snowy plains rest beneath the starlit sky, allow yourself to drift completely into peaceful calm, the story of human survival. Ingenuity and quiet imagination accompanies you gently, leaving behind a sense of wonder, serenity, and deep, restorative rest. Sleep slowly, peacefully, and fully, carried by the quiet legacy of those who walked before, and the enduring whispers of a world both ancient and alive.